Whenever you're ready.
Good morning, class. So what if I told you that the reason behind the bankruptcy of one of the biggest companies in the United States was due to a couple of lies here and there? A lecturer by the name of Jacques Quarry wrote a book on business ethics. And in that book, he stated how cheating and fraud is actually encouraged nowadays, and businessmen think of themselves as clever people whenever they cheat on other people. Now, for example, you see all those movies where a transaction of drugs takes place, and after the transaction is over, they shoot each other. And when that happens, whoever's left states how it's just business. Now, believe it or not, although not all unethical transactions end with shootings, however, it happens more than you know in real life. Businessmen find out clever ways to lie to the people to get more profits. So this semester I'm taking this course called Management 360 or Business Ethics, and this course taught me that there is so much more than the laws that are provided to us by the government. Ethics are unwritten rules, so you may be doing unethical things day by day without getting into immediate trouble. However, trust me, trouble will show up one day. So by knowing more about business ethics, it will lead to you doing more ethical decisions later on in life. So today I will share with you what I have learned about ethics and related to the company that went bankrupt, which is Enron. So I will do this by first telling you what ethics is, what Enron is and what happened to Enron, and then I will move to the consequences that occurred due to Enron shutting down. Now let me begin by telling you what ethics is. Ethics has to do with how we act in our daily lives, what we do each day, and decisions we take every day. Now ethics differ from culture to culture, or from people to people. For example, what is right in your mindset might not be right in someone else's mindset. Or to put it in more basic words, what is right to you may not be right to someone else. Now, ethics differ from laws. Laws are always written, but ethics may not be. That's why laws do not cover every single aspect of our lives. For example, the speed radars in Dubai. Now, the UAE government has a rule that says you cannot overspeed. And if you do, the speed radar will catch you. However, what if you slow down right next to the radar and speed up right after it? Now, legally and according to the law, you are fine because you didn't get caught. But ethically, you are doing something wrong. Now, taking the ethical decisions may sometimes deviate you from the laws. Let me give you this example. Let's say you were working in a pharmacy, and the law states that you may not provide any medicine for any illegal immigrants. Now, what if an illegal immigrant comes in and is badly in need of medicine? Only you could provide. What would you do? Now, if you would provide them with the medicine, you would be taking an ethical decision, but you would be breaking the law. So ethics is much more complicated than we think. Now, business ethics, just as how we people make decisions every day, businesses do too. Tim Marshall, president of the Public Relations Institute of New Zealand in 2002, published a journal article. And in the article, he stated how the ethical reputation of a firm may provide it with a competitive advantage or disadvantage. For example, there is this website called Meatless Mondays, and it is an initiative to stop using meat on Mondays. Now, one of the largest food companies in the world, Sodexo, with billions in revenues, followed this initiative. Although they lost profits in the beginning, however, they took this ethical decision so that they can improve their reputation and help save the environment. And now that you have a general idea of what ethics is, I can now move on to tell you about what Enron is and what happened to Enron. Now, Enron was one of the largest electrical companies that was located in the United States. It's employed thousands. Business magazine Forbes published this article on 2003. In the article, they stated how the bankruptcy of Enron happened because the employees of Enron were doing unethical decisions or were partaking in decisions that weren't really ethical. The Enron employees cooked the books. Now, what does that mean? Cooking the books is an accounting term. Now, it means altering the numbers in the accounting books of the firm. Now, for example, if you go to a company and you buy a laptop for 1,000 dirhams, let's say, the company would report 1,000 coming in, and they would report that in their accounting books. Now, cooking the books means changing that 1,000 into something that would make the company seem more profitable, and in turn, it will attract more investors. And that is unethical. There's this other magazine called Time, and it published this interesting article with the title of Behind the Enron Scandal. Now, this article shows us all of Enron's unethical transactions that date from 1997 to 2002. Now, in the beginning, of course, Enron was piling with profits. It was known as the company that was piling with profits. And in February 2001, Enron reached a stock price of $75. Now, as time passed, the unethical decisions taken by Enron's employees became more publicly known. The CEO of the company left, and top-level employees started to be replaced. And that, in turn, left Enron to recognize losses. And eventually, on December 2001, the stock price of Enron fell down to 26 cents, and that is where they filed for bankruptcy. So now that I have told you guys about what ethics is, what Enron is, and what happened to Enron, I can now move on to the consequences that occurred due to Enron shutting down. Steve Paulson, an Australian writer with many published books, wrote an article that was published on the World Socialist website. And in this article, he wrote to us about most of the consequences that occurred due to Enron shutting down. Now, there are consequences that happened within Enron and consequences that happened outside of Enron. The consequences that happened within Enron include two things. One, the CEO that left the company and most of the top-level employees that had to do with the unethical decisions were sentenced to prison. And the second thing is that all of the employees, even the ones that did not have to do with the scandal, all lost their jobs. Now, the things that happen outside the company are even larger. Now, since Enron was such a big company financially, not only did people depend on Enron for their income, but so did companies. Now, there's this thing called supply chain. Enron was being supplied by companies and was supplying other companies. Now, when you remove Enron from the supply chain, you affect all of the companies on a huge scale. And in turn, this led to 4,500 employees losing their jobs, healthcare, and savings. This led to investors losing billions within a couple of days. And it also led to consumers in California to suffer from shortages since Enron was an electrical company. And the worst thing that happened was that Enron was seen as a symbol of corruption in the United States, and the Americans lost the trust in their economic system. Now, to put an end to this, today I have shared with you what I have learned about ethics and related to Enron. I have done so by telling you what ethics is, what Enron is and what happened to Enron, and the consequences of Enron shutting down. Now, unethical decisions may lead to huge consequences. Just because something is not illegal, it does not mean you have the freedom to do it. As you have seen with Enron, the employees were not doing really anything illegal. They were just doing something unethical, and in their minds, it was just a clever way of getting more profits. However, this led to huge consequences that affected thousands inside and outside of the company. So thank you very much.
Questions?
Why did you pick Enron?
Because it's seen as the largest. It was such a huge company, so its bankruptcy, it shed light on what actually is happening in the United States.
What's in there?
Enron is one of the largest electrical companies. It was located in the United States, and it was basically lying to the people about its profits. So that's why it's led to people investing more in their company. And it led, so basically their employees were doing unethical decisions by lying to the people. And it eventually led to the company going bankrupt. Any other questions?
Other questions?
You did a good job.
Hmm?
You did a good job.
Yes, sir.
Cooking the books, you mentioned about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it actually legal?
No, it's unethical. It's cooking the books is altering the numbers in your accounting books, changing them to make the investors see that the company is more profitable than it actually is.
So isn't that illegal?
Now it is illegal, but it used to be not.
I think his example about the traffic signal was pretty strong.
It was
Yeah.
really
I thought it was a really good example.
And the laptop example.
And
Those two
yeah.
examples were very strong.
Good example.
Really
It's really
good.
good. I will give you for now.
Even if the transitions from one point to another, I think it was.
The one thing that wasn't very clear to me, the few comments I would have is one, you need to tell them what Enron is, because you can't assume that the audience knows what you're talking about.
No, I said that.
You did?
It is.
Too fast.
Oh.
Yeah.
And the first
Just
one-
pass on
Because
it.
people didn't remember, neither did I. I mean, I know what Enron is, but I wanted to be a bit more grounded. The other thing is I wanted a stronger connection or transition between ethics and Enron. I think you assume that we're going to know what you're talking about, but it's not super clear, and that was why Dawn's question was appropriate at this. So, you know because you've done the research that Enron, sorry, I have my time, that Enron has in fact broken business ethics. You know because you've done the research. But for us, listening to you, we didn't know what the connection was. I mean, the specific purpose didn't connect them. You just said, today I'm going to tell you about business ethics and Enron.
That was the company that went bankrupt, which is Enron.
So they're
Sorry about
unethical decisions.
what's happened with Enron.
Yes, but how is that related to ethics versus law?
Because the employers did the unethical
But that came too late.
Yeah.
Give me the second one.
Too late. They're not related. You know what I mean? Your speech has to be an organized whole. It has to stand together. They have to know, I have to understand from the beginning exactly what you're going to talk about and exactly how these things are related. That connection can't come later. And also there needs to be a justification of why I picked Enron.
Because in my head, I thought of Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, I mean, I could think of a million. It's fine. Enron's a great example. But don't take these things for granted. You need to tell people why you're doing what you're doing. Where is ethics here? Where is the law? You know, changing the books, changing the numbers, cooking the cookies, whatever. You know, these expressions, they need to be kind of defined for the public because maybe they don't know. And maybe, you know, again, back to Dawn's question, maybe they don't know that wasn't illegal. Maybe they think it's illegal, not unethical. You know what I mean? Like,
I promise you don't think of these things while rehearsing, while writing your, like, I didn't think of it as in it was okay to do it, but now it's illegal. I just thought of it as it's being an unethical decision.
yeah, which is fine, but your whole speech is based on the difference between the law and ethics. So if you're going to give an example of a company, then you have to explain to us what the law allows us to do and how they manipulated the law in an unethical way. You know, because the whole thing was like the speeding. You can stop before the camera. If it doesn't capture you, didn't break the law, but you're being unethical. Same thing. Enron. Where is the law here? And where are ethics?
Yeah.
And how is it that in this particular scenario, which I agree with, business ethics ended up really damaging them, more so than the law? And this has been the case for several big companies in the States and in different parts of the world. So it's a great topic, and it's so interesting, and your delivery was fantastic. You just need to smile a little bit more, that's it. I mean, you have a problem with smiling.
Always when the topic is like very serious.
Serious.
You can't really smile anywhere. Now I guess I'm gonna
But
smile.
when I say smiling, I don't mean necessarily that. I just mean like
Sometimes.
relax your face,
Yeah.
you know, like a comfort when you're talking. Rather than just, you know, but just sort of a relaxed face. And you swing too much, you know. You had the podium, you need a posture that's straight up, you know. I mean, you have a really cool way of standing, I like it. Really, I do. But when you're giving a speech, it sort of has to be, you have to stand up straight and that sort of. But your confidence is fantastic. You knew you're talking inside out. You kept them interested the whole time. The examples were amazing. So, good job.
Thank you.